Welcome to another session of Lunch and Learn. Lunch and Learn is about code updates and other items that would be important to your business and to consumers in the HVACR industry. It's by the Arkansas HVACR licensing program and the HVACR Association. And as always, we're fortunate to have Tony Woodard, the Chief Inspector for the state, with us. Tony, this time we're talking about new stuff. I realize that doesn't sound very complicated, but a lot of new stuff coming down the pike when we got to get the word out because we're fast approaching January the 1st when there are so many things that are going to take place. It's critical information.
It is critical. With daily calls, inundated with calls as the guys are learning about the CEU requirements and the confusion of my license expires at the end of this month. Where do I get them? When do I get them? How do I get them? And I think we're going to kind of break that down for them to understand that today.
We've got 4 or 5 things to cover today. Hopefully we won't run out of time. Our first thing is to talk about continuing education, which takes effect when, Tony?
January 1. That's when the effective date goes in. So if you have a January 31 expire date, you will have to have your continuing hours. And thanks to Tom's help, he's really spent many a man hours. We're going to have some fall classes for October, November 4. I'd say our first January, February expirees to have an opportunity to obtain their hours before their time frame hits us, which is rapidly approaching.
And as we go through this, we'll have a chance to talk about places that people can get that training. Right now, it's important for people to understand what is continuing education. It's 4 hours of approved continuing education. 2 hours have got to be in code, 2 hours have got to be in technical or in business, or you could have a total of 4 hours in code if you wanted to. But Tony, what does it mean, approved training?
Okay, approved training. The trainer vendor submits a curriculum to us being Department of Labor, for myself and Lindsay Moore to approve. If it's in doubt, we will bring in Kim Cook, our engineer, as well, and we vet that. And once we get it approved, we assign a number. The Department of Labor will assign a number to that training, which means it is vetted, approved training, CEU credited hour.
So you said that it's got to come to you. What information has got to be covered in that application for it to be approved?
Okay, we have to have that provider's, the information, who they are, their experience, what they're going to talk about, their curriculum, the location, the type of training they want to provide. Some don't want to necessarily get into code. Some want to get into technical. Some want to get into application. And I'll give you an example of the spray foam industry. They're going to be approved provider, and they want to show their product, how you apply it, when you apply it. And it's in depth a lot more than people think. There's really a commercial type application versus residential. So yeah, that's considered someone. They provide us with all this information and training and the locations.
You know, one of the things I appreciate about them, I'm glad you mentioned it, is that they have volunteered to teach at all 8 of our expos this fall. So that is a major commitment, and I sure appreciate them doing it there.
It is.
You know, how are people going to know? I mean, how do they know that their class is approved and therefore they're going to get continuing education credit for it?
With your help, a lot of them are knowing, and of course, a lot of phone calls that we're fielding, we're letting them know, and we're constantly handing it out. Our website, as well as the arhvacr.org website. I have the inspectors as of now, and of the last 3 weeks, we are complaint driven, and all we've been focusing our time on, we're knocking on doors. We're going and meeting with contractors, explaining the general liability insurance, the Act 990. We have met folks in locations that have not. They've actually told us they've never ever met a state inspector before. Mountain Home area, the town of Omaha, we are all over the state trying to get the word out, especially with your help, because whether folks want to believe this or not, we still have some folks that just do not want to get to the computer world. Yeah. And they want you to see you in person. That's a fact.
And you know, it's the great thing is that, yeah, the association, we're doing a lot because we're dedicated to professionalism and continuing education in our industry. But all of this training is going to be available from other places as well. In terms of knowing, ask, you know, if you're going to go to a class, say, have you gone to the trouble to be able to get this approved by the Department of Labor and Licensing? Distributors are giving classes all the time. And I think it might be assumed that just because they give a class, it's automatically going to be approved. And you know what? The likelihood of it being approved is dang near 100%. But they got to do the paperwork in order for there to be a record so that it can come to you guys so that the guys can actually get the credit for having taken the class. So
we have to recognize it, and it has to go through our vetting process to be that, get that assigned number. So when we hit our ELP and they go to upload that, it'll be in our system to recognize it. We don't want them to sit through a program thinking they've got approved hours, go to renew their license, and the computer doesn't recognize it. That's the process that we're going through to make sure it doesn't clog the wheel when somebody wants to renew and they enter their information.
So if somebody's going to give you a class, probably ask, what is the class number? What's the approval number? And if they say, what's an approval number? You automatically know they don't have one, and they just need to fill out a little bit of paperwork. It's just one page. I mean, there's nothing to it, and send it in to you and let you look at it. Do what they ought to do to have a good class anyway. And in that way, they'll have the number, and there will be no questions about whether or not the class was approved and whether the man or woman taking the class gets their continuing education. Who does it apply to?
All those, the A's, the B, the C, the D, and the E, the registrants, employees, apprentices, however you want to label them, are not required. You are the trainer of your employee once you sit through the continuing education class. So lifetime licenses are not required. As far as CEUs, if you're a current holder, you will get your CEU hours, not your registrants.
A, B, C, D, and E.
Yes.
All right. What if they don't have a business? They're just working for somebody else, but they've got a license.
Still have to have the CEUs. We'll have to maintain them CEUs to get that license renewed. You have your license, you are required to get your 4 hours now. That's correct.
Now, I don't have it on here, Tony, and I've never asked you before. An L license is a person who is in retirement, isn't it?
Correct.
Can they do work?
They cannot install. They cannot. Okay. That is basically it's an honorary license they carry, but it, you know, the majority of these guys that have L's, where we see them are at their local church, washing the condenser, changing out the filters, maybe changing a part. They're not very few. If we haven't caught any L's, you know, installing.
Yeah, I got you. But do they have to have continuing education?
No, they do not. The board, no, they do not.
All right. All right. How often is it required?
Every year, every 12-month cycle, and that can be confusing. So if you expired 3/31 of 2023, you're going to have till 3/31 of 2024 to gain those hours before you knew. Now, since we're starting January of 2023, this March, these individuals will be the ones that we want to sign up for your fall expo or find continuing education, whether it be online or so forth. Once we start this fall, we would like the first quarter license holders to try to attain their hours.
You know, I'll throw this out there. Today I had a really nice young man ask if he could attend these expos, but he's got a registrant license. He doesn't have a contractor's type license. And basically I asked him to please wait until just before the expo. And if we've got any room, we'd love for him to come. There's no continuing education awarded to him, but we're trying to save these seats for people who, as you said, they're going to be needing to have continuing education because their license may renew in January through March, which, by the way, we'll have another round of them beginning in late January, going through March to take care of people after that. So,
and with that said, you just brought a point to my head of a phone call I'd taken. Can my number one, as he put it, my number one lead tech that runs my program set in for me? Unfortunately, no. This is the license holder themselves. The way this is set up is for the holder to be there to attend the class.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I
I
had the
mean,
conversation. I had the exact same conversation today. I sure
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Okay, here's some places that people can get their continuing education.
Yes, we've got multiple distributors. We've got some manufacturers. I'll give you Ream Rude, Weather King. They are going to, especially when we get into the A2L Series 2, they're going to hold training on that. Asheed, their new engineer design, I'll be with him at Louisville, and he is going to open that up. And when that gets there, they're going to hold some. The colleges you reached out to, training, of course, the in-person HVAC Association, and the others would fall into, I'd say, if you hold an Oklahoma license, Texas license, Tennessee, Arkansas, that is a caveat. I mean, we're bunched together. There's certain continuing education that they provide that kind of meshes with ours. If it's in that same time frame, it's being looked at, and some of them will be considered. That would fall in that other.
I'm just going to guess and ask the question, and that would be that maybe their technical side would be okay, but they're still going to need to get code.
Yeah, the code is the side. Actually, the code is the side. They said we will, because those states I mentioned are
Yes.
at the 2018 and moving towards the 2021. So those were the states we mean. That's the code we're going to really recognize.
Yeah.
The technical, they're all, I mean, everybody, the micro channel, we know they have to take that or they're not going to charge their systems correctly. So
That's right. Okay. One of the things I wanted to point out there is that we are doing these continuing education expos through the association, and you do not have to be a member of the association to come to one. We welcome anyone and everyone. The members get a little break on what the tuition is for it. To find out about this, in case you've got questions, you go to our website, which is arhvacr.org. Scroll down past the landing picture and click on the big logo there that says Expo, and that will then take you to another place real quickly where you can then select one of the 8 places that we're having them across the state. We'd love for you to come, but we want you to always remember that your distributor is really the first line in being able to supply you with continuing education. We're there to help out, and we love to be able to meet you if you come to one of those 8 sessions. What's it going to cost, Tony? All this education sounds expensive.
So I know there's online training that can go from $35 and up. That's what I've seen. The expos and so forth. Some providers, one mentioned he might do some training for free. Now, that would be their location. They might offer a one-day training at their location and open it up. But the issue with that, I know they set 40 folks. It's going to be first come, first serve, and it's going to be limited seating. So you're going to have to shop around, as you said, in the convenience. Do you mind driving 30 miles, or do you want to just go across the block, or do you want to be a person that goes online? I am not, and you can watch these YouTubes, and no, I'm not an online guy. I like to see it, touch it, feel it, but a lot of the heating and air people are, but then I've noticed a lot of their younger generation can operate these IT products a lot better than you and I, Tom. So they might like the online.
Yeah, that's true. And you can go to a 2-day class and it's going to cost more than a 2 or 3 or 4 hour class is.
Oh, sure.
So the prices are going to be all over the place. Some of them you said may be just for the price of the lunch, if you're going to go in for a lunch, something like that. So it's going to vary. You're going to be able to pay about whatever you want to, I think.
I do too.
Okay. Then the next item.
All right. Our duct testing.
We got duct leakage testing coming effective January 1.
Permitted. Any house permitted after January 1. This is residential dwelling. Okay. So this isn't strip centers. This isn't commercial school. This is residential dwelling. Any residential dwelling purchase after Jan 1 will have to have that duct leakage test on the rough end. Sure will.
All right. How do they test it? Well, obviously we use a duct blaster to be able to do that. That's been around a long time. And we last year, Tony, I think trained over 80 people in the state to be able to do that. So it's going to be a lot of people who can do the test. Can they do their own?
Yep, if they've been certified.
Yeah, and that you can get that from ResNet or BPI. Fully recommend people go in ResNet, BPI, especially if you want to move into things like weatherization improvements, or if the only thing you're looking for is to be able to test the duct or to test the house to see if it is meeting the code, then the Arkansas HVACR Association DET verifier class is the one that you probably ought to take. And how much we're running long. I don't want to go into this a lot, but there's a formula that you can use. You run your test. You see if it's 6% of the conditioned floor area or less, and if it is, it passes. That's still a lot of duct leakage.
That's absolutely a lot. Yeah,
we are not setting a very high standard. For example, you take a 2,000 square foot house, you could have 120 CFM of duct leakage. We ought to be ashamed of as an industry to be satisfied with that. But hey, that's the way it is, and that's what we're teaching.
I like to explain that too for some of the guys. They look at me, well, and I go, okay, what your standard 12 by 14, 12 by 13 and a half bedroom, that's a 6-inch CFM duct. Look at the leakage. We're allowing a 3-bedroom house to have one of those bedrooms leak. Think about it like that. I tell you, like, well, okay, you put it. That's a lot.
Yes, it is.
It is.
All right. There are 3 different times that the duct can be tested.
That is right. I strongly recommend the first 2. It's so much easier to get up there, find the leak, correct the leak, solve the problem on the rough end stage. The total, we can get a lot of issues and blown insulation, all kinds of things all in the way there. I do have people that I'll kind of pose to you right quick. I know we're running long. They ask me on a daily basis, how many people are already doing this? And I'm like, that's a hard question. I don't know. They want me to give them out. How many folks are already providing this service? Do you have an idea, Tom?
And I'm just going to throw a number out there. And if I'm wrong, I'm sorry. I doubt that there are more than a couple of dozen people in the state that are actually doing it. When you think about the number of new construction houses that are being built all the time in this state, how many people are going to be necessary to be able to test that duct leakage? It's going to take a while for that need of being able to test duct, for that to ramp up. And so that's why I think, for one reason, it's real important that these guys become a certified verifier of the duct leakage and invest in the equipment. They may decide they want to, go in business for themselves and test, duct in the region of their state. But I'll
give you an example of Benton and Washington County. Benton and Washington County have averaged for the last 3 years. Those 2 counties have averaged between 24 and 2,600 new homes a year.
Ooh,
a year. That's how rapid the growth is up there.
That's over 200 houses a month.
That's correct. That is correct. And these are factual numbers. These are hard. You can go to those permitting ordinances. These are factual numbers. This is how we did it. It was permits. That's a lot of houses. That's a lot.
And if you're going to do your own testing, you're going to have to stay current with how things are changing. By the way, Tony, there's been one change in what's acceptable and what will be the energy code, that there will be no duct leakage to the outside test. It's going to be total leakage. So whereas before there was just a little caveat there that might let you slip by, come the new energy code, that won't be there either. And so we're going to train to what will be the new code. So it's a lot is coming down the pipe, but when you stop and think about it, homeowners are going to be so much better served. They're not going to have those bedrooms that they can't get any air to and they stay hot and stay cold. But I'm sorry, we'll move on. Can you hire somebody to test your duct?
Sure.
General liability insurance. That's our third item. Oh my, this is an issue.
General liability insurance, it's complying to the A, B, C, D, E holder. L does not have to have it. Now, there's some exceptions on the ABC. I'd say, like, I'll just throw, there's some large companies in the state of Arkansas. And when I say large, 300 plus employees, that have multiple A or B employees that work for them, but they strictly, that is their Monday through Friday. That is their job. They do not use their license other than that firm. They are not required to show us the proof of liability. They are covered under the owner of that business's general liability insurance. State employees, I'll give you example as well, carry A's for school districts, head of maintenance, and they do not work outside. They're not required to have the general liability insurance. But if you're setting package units, you're second condensers, we do have some that work for such deals, but in the summertime, try to go out and do a little income on the side. Those individuals will be required to show proof of general liability insurance.
So how much do they have to carry?
The minimum quarter, and I keep getting a call back. Well, all I carry is $1 million because they get quoted $1 million, $28 more than, yeah. I mean, the board decided to go with a quarter. I'm finding 80% of the policies $1 million is what it is, but that's the minimum requirement.
Well, that's a starting place.
Yes, sir.
Who can they buy it from?
Their regular provider. I mean, your regular provider would be chomping at the bit to, even if you would be the first policy, I would most definitely check with your provider. If you have multiple insurances with them, you're going to get a discounted rate. I had a guy call me yesterday and said that he got quoted $6,000. And I said, did you hear that correctly? He said, I did. I said, I would check somewhere else. That's all I could say.
My. Yeah. No, we're talking a few $100s.
Yes.
It's all we're talking about.
$380 to $420 for these policies.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, Tony, I want to play the devil's advocate here, and I'm a good old guy, and I hadn't thought about general liability insurance. And now you are going to make me buy general liability insurance, and I need to renew, and my renewal comes up January 31st. Next thing I know, it's the 31st, and I don't have any insurance. Could I call you? Would I really have to get that insurance? And what happens if I don't have it?
Well, you put a clog in our rolling wheel that we're doing the very best to keep rolling smooth.
Yeah.
We will need that. We do have to put a copy of that. As of right now, if you renew online, at that point, we ask you to email that in to Amanda Williams, amanda.williams@arkansas.gov. If you go ahead and renew online, it'll allow you to do it. Come January the 10th, it looks like our ELP, we've got a date now, is rolling out, and that upload button will be on there for you to scan that, upload it, scan your CEU, upload it, and go forth that way. In the time being, if you expire between now and then, email us a copy, or if, like I said, if you renew online, email it to amanda.williams@arkansas.gov, and we can go from there.
Now, Tony, if they don't have a copy machine or a scanner, can they just take their phone and take a picture of it and email that to you?
Yes, and we have several general liability insurance providers email them to us.
Oh,
you can pick up the phone and go email this to, and they're doing it. So simple as that.
Right. They've been doing that for a lot of years, haven't they?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So there's not, I haven't fielded a legit excuse yet. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Oh, Tony, hiring a felon. The legislature and their good nature is trying to help people, but it's really creating some fun for you guys, isn't it?
This is our administrative nightmare. This is manpower wise is really hampered. This has eaten up a lot of our time, and I can't strongly get it out enough. We are an industry that is hard work. It is dirty, it's hot, it's sweaty. It's always been the responsibility of the license holder to hire their employee and do their own background check. We do not do a background check, and this second chance law has slowed everything down. And we want to stress, if you hire 4 brand new individuals and you want to write that $100 check, which we get that, but if one of your application is checked yes, that stops the entire process. Nobody gets to go to work at that point. Be sure to separate these. Move the Act 990 to its own app with its own check. Send the rest in with their check, and their process will go on and go through. I understand this. We are not the judge, the jury to tell an individual they cannot go to work. But this law, we have to follow the laws that legislators put upon us, and it has really slowed the process down. You come to our hearings, the first hour are broke down into just saying a young man or young woman can go to work. It's eating up a lot of time. It really is.
If my understanding is correct, a few years ago, there were certain felonies, there was a whole bunch of felonies that you could not have committed and get many licenses in the state. And the legislature says, well, some of those things aren't quite so bad. Maybe we ought to give them a second chance, but they're going to need to make an application for the board that they're applying for a license for to be able to review that. And so when they fill out their application, they have all these other things that they have to
correct.
So give you to kind of validate what you know, a lot of people have had a tough time with drugs when they were 17, 18 years old, and now they're 25, 30 years old. They've done their time and they want to go to work. And the way the law used to be, some of the things they would not have been able to work in. Now then, there are certain occupations that they can apply for a waiver in. But what you were talking about a while ago, to make the process work right, if a contractor wants to hire somebody that they feel like that they can trust, but they've got a felony, these are the three things that we have published in the news magazine that they need to do. Do you want to go over those one more time?
I do. Again, that applicant, Act 990, and we get efficiency and time management. If you're filling out your 3 and you want to send one check, we totally understand that. And we don't want to slow up the individuals from going to work, but we have to separate that. So if you do have an Act 990, please make that its own individual application with its own individual check, because that check is that 6 to 8 weeks is a moderate number. I need to stress, one individual, Miss Amanda Williams, is trying to process on a daily basis 50 to 60 checks come in a day. The process right now, when we try to go to the Act 90, that is a 15 to 20 minutes uploading of all this information in there before she ever can go back to the system to process an 8-minute check, which is a standard flow or flow check, where you've got the information, the check's good, she sends it, it goes to child support, so all it's bouncing around is an 8-minute process in a good day. So as the IT explained to me, so we'll break it down in Tony's world, we have this 12-inch duct system for our IT. It's flowing good, but we have to send it to ACES. Then all of a sudden we bottle into a 3-inch duct system. I said, now I'm understanding your language. Yeah. It slows the stuff down, not to mention all the other administrative things that have to come with that. Then you have to have your waiver, which we have to vet that. Then you have to have the contact information. And we are not trying to hinder anyone from going to work. And we're not trying to stop the workflow for the contractors. This is something that's been put into our lap. Maybe it can be brought back to legislation to really look at it again, but we're asking for their help to ensure, make sure if you do have a yes, let's separate that to the side and move the rest of them that can go to work that day and send them in. And we'll go with it and try to get those out as quick as we can.
So if the contractor fills out the paperwork correctly, totally separate from the other registrants that he's applying for, there is no slowdown on those guys who do not have felonies. It just marches through like it always has.
Right. You fill it out, you write the check, you snap a picture of that, or they need to snap a picture with their phone. That is their registrant until their license or card comes in. The minute they snap that picture of that check and that deal, they can go to work right then, even though that's in the mail. The one that's checked Act 90 cannot. So
well,
make that clear.
Everybody's trying to be a help, but you know, the devil is in the detail, and we have found a little gremlin running around here that you have to deal with. Tony,
and water hits them and then they multiply. Yeah,
that's right. One of the reason I put this picture here of our news magazine is because we deal with these 3 topics, actually 4 topics that we've covered today. And so there's a lot to digest in a short time on the Lunch and Learn. But if you will go to the news magazine, that's arhvacr.org, And if you will scroll down past the landing page and look to the left, there's the icon, which is the front cover of this month's issue of the news magazine. If you'll click on that, there is a lengthy article on each of these topics that we talked about, and you'll be able to get the full detail. I submitted them to Tony and to Lindsay for their, make sure I wasn't misquoting, I was saying things correctly. Doesn't mean that there's nothing else we could have included. It just means that they pass the muster. You can read that, and you should be able to count on them for the information that you need. Got any questions? You can always call Tony. You can always call the licensing program. And you know, I might be able to help, but boy, those are the guys. That's the horse's mouth right there. Tony, we've been a long time at this. Do you want to go on in and talk about renewing your license, or do we need to save that for another day?
I think we'll touch on that another time. You're busy, and I think we have stretched this for a minute here. So I think this is a good stopping point.
All right. So anyway, if you need more information, more detailed information on what we talked about there today, go to the news magazine at arhvacr.org. Scroll down past the landing picture, go to the left side, click on the logo, the icon there, which is the front cover of the news magazine. Open that up. Doesn't cost you anything. Just be able to read it and make copies of it. Send it around to other people that you know of that would benefit from it, because there's a lot of little details that if we knew about them, would prevent a lot of headache for ourselves. We wouldn't create as much headache for the labor and licensing HVACR program. Tony, again, as always, I say it every month, and sometimes I think it's a little trite, but I appreciate you. I appreciate the program, appreciate Lindsay, appreciate all the guys up there at Labor and Licensing, because they have gone beyond anything that we ever dreamed would be possible to make this program successful. So thank you, Tony.
Well, thank you. We have a good partnership with the HVAC Association, and we thank you for all your help as well.
Have a good one. Until next month, which will be October.
Yeah, October.
We'll work hard and try to get everything done between now and then. And the Lunch and Learn start up October the 4th in Fort Smith, and there's one or two every week after that. Tony, thanks again. Bye now.